Hello, this is the first voiceover lecture for Chapter 9. In a few moments' time you will be familiarized with the three general muscle types. This is going to be in the next activity of this module. But this video will focus on general characteristics and functions of muscle tissue. So, about half of your body mass is going to be made by the muscles. That is a lot, right? So really, muscular system is going to be of a great importance for us as we study the body. And another thing that I want to highlight with this figure is that like no other system in the body, muscular system should not be considered separate from the other systems. Instead, please pay attention to the skeletal system, which we just covered, and how it and muscular system are linked. Muscles typically cross over one or more joints, being attached to different bones, and therefore generate the movement of this joint. And they could not do this without skeleton. So, if you think back on your BIO201 or BIO256 class, this is where it all comes together. So body uses nutrients to build up chemical energy, which we know as ATP. And this happens typically in the mitochondria. And now muscles can use this ATP, turning it into an actual mechanical energy, which we see as a movement. So it is the muscles that generate the forces that we can use to do various things within and with our body. So that is pretty remarkable as for taking some concepts that we have learned before and putting them together. There are going to be a couple of things that I want us to look at. We will be talking about the types of muscle tissue later in the next activity of this module. But I want us to start by looking at some of the characteristics of the muscle tissue and then look at the functions of muscles. But before we do that, I want you to be introduced to something that I think is really fun. So, where does the word muscle come from? Well, this is a neat story. Back when the early scientists were studying muscles, they concluded that when flexed, these structures looked a little like mice beneath the skin. So they took the word mus from Latin to describe this. So this Latin word means little mouse, and it's where it came from. But I do want you to remember that it is not just the big, flexing, bulging muscles that are muscles, really. We have also important muscle structures, for example, in the heart walls and walls of many hollow organs. So let's look at the characteristics of muscle tissue. And there are four that I want to highlight at this point, and all muscles share these characteristics. First, with this one, I refer to the fact that muscles are responsive. They are able to receive and respond to stimuli. Then muscles are able to contract. They shorten, generating a force when they are stimulated. On this point, I want to emphasize though that a muscle is still working although it is not lengthening. Notice how this holds true when holding up a heavy weight. It is still working the muscles although there is no actual movement, right? As the third one, I want to mention that the muscles can be stretched. And finally, elasticity refers to the fact that muscles are able to recoil, and in this manner, they can resist lengthening. So that is our list of four main characteristics of muscles, shared by all muscles. And this is where I want to mention the importance of being qualified in what you do and really knowing your craft. For example, there are a lot of people out there that call themselves personal trainers. But what you want to do is to find the ones that actually have a knowledge of what advice they are giving to you and a real rationale behind it. For example, a physiotherapist that instructs a patient in an exercise that does not follow the line of pull will be less effective and could even place additional stress on damaged tissues. So be smart out there. I have some tips and tricks on how you can tell if you have a good PT or not. The other thing that I want to mention just quickly is the consequences of a wrong technique in weight training. In my view, it's all about the core. A good personal trainer will emphasize the importance of and developing your core muscles and core strength. And if you are a regular person doing beginner or intermediate weight training, you should not have to wear a belt around your mid-body to achieve the exercises that you are aiming for. So look for a personal trainer who keeps using a word core in their language and actually knows what they are doing. And I guess that your next question should be that, what is the worst that can happen then? And at this point, I will give you a heads up of a gruesome image coming up. Well, I have been involved with sports sciences too, and what happens sometimes is that we get athletes that are so focused on training only some muscles and are not properly supervised that they end up with an imbalance in their flexors or extensors, for example. And like in this image, they can end up with an overtrained set of muscles on one side while the opposing muscles are too weak, and like here, if they are overly trained, they can even snap their own bones due to this imbalance. In a properly supervised training, this does not and should not ever happen. Well, the next thing to discuss is the functions of muscular system. Let's have a look of those. The first one that I want to introduce is production of movement. It is the muscles that are responsible for all the movement and manipulation of various substances in your body. Think of walking, digestion, and pumping blood in your body. The next one that we are going to have a look is going to be the maintenance of posture and body position. Remember that to even stay still requires work. Standing on one leg is a great example of this and really illustrates the interaction of the muscular system and the nervous system. Well, next, I want us to note that muscles play a key role in stabilizing the joints. Again, it is an interaction of the skeletal system and the muscular system and how they work together. And I think that we have had a look of this in our previous chapter. Finally, the last of the four big ones of functions of muscles that I want to mention here is heat production. Remember that as muscles contract, they generate heat, and this can become very useful, for example, when we are cold. Think of getting shivers. So there we have four important functions of muscles, but that is not all. There are a few others that we might add. Think of muscles as they protect your organs, form various valves, control the size of pupil in your eye, and give you the goosebumps. Remember, we discussed them as the hair standing up thanks to the erector pili muscle. So we will wrap up this short introductory video here. What I would like you to do as the next thing is to have you to review the three main muscle types in the next activity. And after that, we will resume to the lecture videos. I will see you then.